Hello, it's Catherine Bonner from Ambient Tribe. Um, Now that so many of us are working from home or working remotely, um, we're having to consciously and proactively communicate more often, better, with our employees, whether that's one-to-ones or check-ins or phone calls, however you're doing it. And while a lot of time I know is being spent on managing workload, trying to work out productivity levels, trying to work out how the heck we do this with children running around, I just wanted to, I suppose, remind leaders and managers that a huge part of that engagement and connection is about human connection, rather than just managing the work. And a big part of that is around building trust. And I spent a lot of this time this weekend listening to podcasts and articles and the news and all sorts. And there seemed to be this overwhelming assumption that we were all in a state of anxiety or a state of panic or a state of worry. And I'm sure there are moments in everyone's day when all those feelings are happening. But I just wanted to give you some tips as a leader when about engaging with your team, about some of the pitfalls not to fall into. And the first one is around making assumptions. So don't assume that your team member is feeling in any particular way when you're speaking to them. It's really easy in a one-to-one environment to say, oh, you must be feeling really stressed. This must be really worrying for you. And actually, a situation happened to me yesterday where I was doing a lovely mindfulness session, and the guy leading it was like, we're all feeling very stressed right now. And actually, I hadn't been. But the minute he said that, it made my stress levels just start to rise. So when you are, checking in with your team, don't assume that they're feeling anything. Second thing, ask open-ended questions. So rather than putting your assumptions on them, ask them open-ended questions that give them the space to actually share with you what is going on for them. So rather than, oh, it must be really stressful managing the kids, ask very openly, how are you finding juggling work with having to homeschool the children? Is there anything I can do to better support or understand what you're going through? That's a totally different conversation to putting your stuff onto that person. So number one, don't make assumptions. Number two, ask open questions. Number three, listen to their responses. There's that old adage, we have two ears and one mouth. So really listening now is so critical. I think when our employees come up to us with a problem, our automatic default setting is to find a solution, solve it for them, work it out for them. That's not what we need to do in a time of crisis, actually. What we really need to do is listen and understand, seek to understand, not to solve. Because quite often that person will be able to work it out themselves. They just need you to understand the situation that they are in. I genuinely think that those companies and leaders that take the time to listen and really understand what their team are going through are the leaders who are going to get through to the other side of this. I don't know if that's the right phrase at all, but who are going to be able to engage and connect with their employees throughout this time, and develop those relationships and make stronger connections. The fourth thing I just wanted to share was around the question, how are you? And it's a question that we ask a million times a day in such a throwaway way, how are you? And when you're doing your one-to-ones or check-ins with your team, be really careful of that question. If someone is feeling stressed and anxious and traumatized potentially, asking how are you can be a really huge, too big to manage question. I certainly know when I've been through family bereavement that when people would ask me how are you, kind of look at them in this way of being like, well, my person just died, so my life has ended as I know it, and I'm falling apart. The people who really were great at connecting during that time of stress were people who would say, how are you today? That making it about today, this moment, means it's manageable. Yes, maybe my life has ended as I know it, but actually right now I've got a glass of water, I'm warm, I've got my computer, I've got my work, I'm okay, actually. Yeah, it's hard, but I'm okay. And I think when you are looking at ways to connect with your team, such a simple thing, but it really shifts the nature of the conversation from how are you in the middle of this world pandemic to how are you today? How are you at this moment? because that is manageable and that is doable. So don't make assumptions, ask open-ended questions, really listen to the answers, and how are you today? Thank you.